Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds. I am Nerdarchy, and tonight I am stoked to talk about the Mage Forge with this nerd.
What's up, man? How's it going? Nerdarchy, it's Dave from Nerdarchy. How's your night going?
Pretty good. As always, Mondays is a fresh new week, and I like doing the chat with you and Ted, so it's fun to be here and hanging out with you.
Yeah, so tonight's topic is Mage Forge.
And don't worry, we're not just going to talk about our Kickstarter the whole time, but we do have one.
It's true. We do have a Kickstarter going on right now. With any luck, I even put the link in the description so you guys can go check it out if you want to. No pressure.
Yeah. And it's on the fancy overlay if you want to type it out.
But, one of the things I did want to talk about is kind of like the origins of the Mage Forge, right?
That's awesome, because that was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. We're simpatico. Because, yes, that's a concept that's Nerdarchy, been around Nerdarchy for a long, long, long time. Long before I was around, even.
Yeah, so we've got a playlist with 33 videos in it.
Okay.
And the first one came out February 23rd, 2015.
So pretty early on.
Yeah, we'd been like maybe a little more than a year into it.
So originally it was just a video concept where you guys sort of like come up with a magic item in the video, right?
Yeah, the idea was we were going to like have a video and live during the video. Of course, they weren't live at that time. They were pre-recorded. But while shooting the video, we would concept a magic item. Like we might come up with something to start with, like, oh, we're going to make a sword, or here's
very broad strokes.
Yeah, and then we just turn the cameras on and just talk about it and see what we come up with.
Yeah, because back in the day, now little how the sausage is made. Our videos still are not scripted, but we do have bullet points to refer to. But back then, you just turn the camera on and start talking in Ted's basement, just like you would have anyway, right? Which is cool because, like, I've certainly done that many times with my friends. Just like, oh yeah, what if there was a sword that did this and that, and all these other things.
Yeah, in the old days, we just show up with a list and like be like, all right, we're gonna shoot these 11 videos today.
yeah, and they were longer too.
So
well, there's more people too, so it's like
it depends, right? People. Like, so there was a time when we did like a lot of micro content, and I think those might have been a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
When we were shooting like 10 a day, they were a bit shorter. But there was definitely a time where, we would shoot in those videos. There would be like WebDM videos, right? They're like 45 minutes long.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Do you remember, do you have a favorite from those, or do you remember like the very first one, or whose idea it was, or anything? I'm kind of curious myself.
Well, I think the first one was Veriloff, the Divine Drought, which was like,
really?
How can we make a potion a magic item? We decided to make it sentient. So it wasn't.
That's cool.
I wouldn't say it wasn't really that the actual potion itself was the magic item, but the container, probably the potion vial.
That's it. That's a pretty cool idea, though. Actually, that the potion bottle is somehow the magical item.
I'm pretty sure a bunch of these are. I'm pretty sure quite a few of these have even made it into the Mage Forge Kickstarter.
Probably. I'm surprised that one didn't. It sounds really cool. Maybe we'll have to slip some exclusive ones in there, perhaps. Some new ones.
Like, I think the Hammer of the Mordanes, that was one of them. I think that's in there. The Thorn Vine is a whip.
And the Mantle of the Thorn Vine as well. Those kind of a paired magic item. Those are both in there. So go ahead.
So there's definitely a bunch of them that have definitely made it in there.
Okay.
From those, and it's just because why? Because it's different, like cheater dice. Like I'm pretty sure they're in there. Because a lot of it, we would turn into the rewards for for our Patreons.
Yeah, so back in the day, this is around when I came on. The rewards were very much more tiered, and Mage Forge was one of those tiers where you would just get magic items that month if you wanted, or however it was worked out. And that was around when I came on board helping you guys and getting more involved with, than just contributing to the website. And for me personally, so it was like a treasure trove, both as like a fan and a gamer nerd myself, to just like find all those files and notes and everything in Dropbox. And I was just like, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff here.
It's just scattered. What you really mean is, oh my God, they're so disorganized. How do they find?
Well, I mean, yes and no, but despite that, there's still a wealth of cool ideas, and I feel like the same excitement I used to have as a fan watching you guys is at least for me what I hope to inject into Mage Forge, which is just things that make you want to play the game and use those things, right? Like, many times I'd just be sitting in my apartment in Austin, Texas, watching you guys' videos late at night or while I was at work putting the paper together. And that was the feeling I always had, was just like, oh yeah, the next time I play, like, I am going to put that magic item in my game because it's really cool and really like evocative and things. And, we've sort of, our sensibilities have developed over the years too, where that's more of a conscious thing to kind of build those little like hooks, and sort of the same way I look at like the monster manual, right? Like just those little blocks, maybe it's a description of something or just, some vague hint at lore. And it's like, yeah, that's an adventure right there. And sort of, I think we're kind of feeling that same thing about magic items. It's just like, look, you can make a whole adventure or plot hooks around these things. And, the style of jamming that you like, that I've sort of adapted to, is like, I'm just going to shotgun out ideas, and the things the players seem interested in, we'll go with that. So we try to make our magic items as interesting as, anything else.
Well, that method has always worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
After spending countless years trying to be like, I'm going to craft the perfect story, and then no one cares. So.
Well, it's not that I think about that a lot. I mean, it's like our job, and just deeply thinking about it. And it's like, I feel like the story is I like the emergent story, right? It's just like, well, the players, I don't know what you had in mind, so they're not going to feel the same things are important, whether it's like an NPC or a plot hook or a villain. They might not hate the villain. Maybe just some jerk that bumped into him on the street ends up being the campaign villain because they just don't like that guy, for some reason, right? So that flexibility is super helpful. And items are the same way. I mean, I've certainly ran and played in games, played in games where like magic items can greatly drive a lot of stuff. My best example I have is my long 5e campaign. It was just a +1 dagger that had a name, the name of the dagger engraved on it, and they just loved it. They wanted to know everything about it. They, and it was just like, I just thought it was a cool detail. But it was like, it wasn't like a campaign focus, but for that character, it certainly, drove a lot of their motivations of like wanting to just learn more about it, where to come from, could it do anything else and stuff. So many side quests and things develop from that.
So Parks wants to know if we've done a Mage Forge
as one of the items. Sorry, yes, actually, there's a video. I think it's called that, or no, I'm sorry, that's Mage Vault.
Yeah, we've not done a Mage Forge. Maybe we need to though.
Yeah, so it is. It's a kind of a catchy title, and the art from the box sort of suggests a lot of concepts that we like in our magic items. It's like there's a dwarf, there's obviously magic, but I like you guys. I think we all are sort of on the same page. It's like I like the idea of really like creating magic items is a fun, really cool part of D&D. And so to that question, I would say, yeah, I mean, I would absolutely be a cool adventure. Maybe we can put together a little like an encounter adventure, to go along with that, or, release it with it or something. Part of, not to dwell too much, I don't want to make it all about the Kickstarter, but, it's kind of funny. I don't know if how much you want to like reveal and stuff, but you mentioned that RPG Academy podcast that in a lot of ways is like a palate cleanser for us, right? So, the whole idea is like, well, it's just a small project. We just want to do this and get it out there and move on. But because of that, as people can see, it doesn't have tons of stretch goals and all this stuff. But at the same time, I feel like we have a bit of agility and fluidness with it, where it's like, sure, we could, we don't actually detail like what is in the PDF thing that comes with it. Maybe it's a little Mage Forge encounter. I don't know. No promises, but I'm going to write that down. That's not a bad idea. I guess the bigger point I'm making there is like the Kickstarter page doesn't really delve too much into other stuff that's in it, but there is a PDF version and a booklet that is a physical booklet in the box with just all sorts of goodies. We're sort of like pulling a lot of different things into that. We were just working on it today. We found some fun stuff to include with that. And I think a short little, our encounter style might be a pretty cool thing to add in there as well.
I'm going to pitch it to Ted. Mage Forge the Mage Forge.
Yeah, why not? When we had out of the box, we put Seizing the Means together, which has been a hugely popular little encounter. And, I feel like the three of us have really come to like embrace that sort of style of, not adventures, but just encounters, right? So I think
do we need another artifact, cool, right? Like the Mage Forge could almost be like what is it? What is the throne? What's the throne artifact?
Oh boy, I don't know. Is there one?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Like in a long time D&D item, or
yeah, it's like a classic. Also, the Machine of Lum is another one that kind of, but like something where it's like, you're like it's an artifact level item, but it's not like you're gonna put it in your pocket and take it with you.
Right. It's a place. Yeah, maybe sort of like an artifact location. That could be pretty neat.
Yeah, like that might be something fun to do.
Mm-hmm.
And things like that are great too, because like then the players can kind of access it, but also they can't really take it with them. So like, you can have it in the game or not in the game.
Yeah.
That you kind of need as the GM.
That's our jam. That's it really. I was so happy on today's live chat today. You had Andy Hand on from Limitless. I love those guys, but he talked about something that I feel is super important for any creator, and that's like them, we just create the things that we would want to use in our games, and for us that is all drop-in content because that's just how we like to play and run games. So I think
like,
a little
it'd be weird for us to be like, here's our campaign setting, when we buy other people's stuff, we never use it. We just rip out the things we like and cherry pick, right? Like, we've got all these adventures and modules that we've bought in or were sent to us.
Mm-hmm.
The chances that we'll ever run any of them are like slim to none. Like, it would almost have to be like a special request or something. Yeah. But we do love to pick them apart and find cool ideas and cool things to add into our games from.
Yeah, more than you two. I mean, I use published things a lot more, but never, just like as written. It's usually just like, oh, I like this. I tend to like things like Kobold Press layers, which are a lot like our encounters, where it's like, look, it's just like 4 or 5 rooms with some stuff going on, so very drop in.
From things that you've said, you kind of do the same thing, but you pull bigger chunks out.
Yeah, and I'm also like, I go in knowing like, okay, they might just totally go sideways immediately, you know what I mean? They're just a place to start, which I feel like the, stewards of 5e right now have said as much many times too. For me, it's just weird because they're so big.
Yeah.
Like, I just know from my experience that if I was like, let's, with a group of friends, like, let's play through, Wild Beyond the Witch, like, it would just we'd never do it. Like, it would just never finish, so it's like, it's almost like the safety mechanism for me to pull them apart, because it's like, it's just never going to happen. They're too long. And they would just go off the rails, but I'll certainly pull stuff out of them liberally. Let's see.
There's a Worm Skull throne. Is that it? I wonder.
That sounds familiar. Let's see. Brian Smith says, why tarot size? That's a good question. I mean, certainly traditional playing card size like fit in binders nicely. Although there is, sleeves for tarot size things you find on Amazon and stuff.
Yeah, there's honestly, also fancy like deck holders and stuff, right? That come in all different sizes. I want to say the main reason is we wanted to offer more. Like we wanted more room for art. We wanted more room for description. We didn't want to just cram it on a little card. Like,
yeah, if it was on a regular card, I feel like even the small items would be really. I mean, the ones that aren't, like super long would be really cramped for space. I mean, you're talking like the font would have to be very small. But the having tarot size means, the way we did it too. I don't know how much you liked it. The page is, it's not like a playing card or a magic card where there's like a logo and then everything's on there. So like the whole one side of the card is just the art, and then the other side is like the name and all that stuff. Because like you said, it's like, well, we just wanted to show off the art, and I just love cards. So I would, and I've used them again both as a DM and player, and they're fun to get. They're fun to give out, I think. It's also like a keepsake too. I mean, I don't know if you're like, super stodgy and want to keep them all nice, that's fine. But I mean, something like that, like I have many decks that are not missing many cards because I just gave them to players and they kept them, which is cool. You know what I mean? It's like maybe years from now you find that.
Beginning of the session, right? Be like, here you go.
Yeah.
And then and collect it at the end. But at least they have it in front of them. They can see it. They can reference it. Makes it easier.
Yeah. It's just fun.
It's also really good for like new players.
Yes,
because they can't have the information right. Like spell cards, I feel like are the same way. They're like,
oh yeah, I have all the what was it, Gale Force 9? They're over here. Super handy.
They are. They all end up all mixed up though. The players are ruthless.
Yeah. Now the neat thing is because as you might guess, excuse me, especially as things increase in rarity, the amount of text goes up, exponentially.
Yeah.
So there's quite a few items that are very long. And for those, what we did is put like the pertinent information that the player would need on a regular basis on the card, and the rest is in the booklet. But that can also include like plot hooks, lore. There's quite a few items that incorporate like that 4E style table of how much you learn for doing like an Arcana check or a history check. So that booklet's going to have like a lot of GM resources that aren't on the card. I think
we're going to like, once we get the final specs in the booklet, we're going to like put all the pertinent information in there and then be like, all right, how much room do we have left? And see what else we can cram in there.
I'd imagine the box is about this size, so the booklet's designed, is going to be designed to just lay in there. And
basically it's going to be like a jumbo box of Uno.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is the way the setup is with the.
I think I was definitely geeking out about the box more than you guys. I just really thought it was sharp, and I liked having like this. Yeah, like you said, it's just like.
Well, also with the tarot size cards, and when they're in the box itself will sit on your shelf nice and display. Mm-hmm. And it'll be a nice display as well. So that, like those are kind of like all the things that went into like the decision making of, why don't we make it tarot size cards. Because I mean, we talked about a bunch of different things, like 5 different decks, multiple decks, and we decided. Like,
I think somebody even said it was floated the idea of like people could like mix and match them at one point. It was like that didn't last long, but it was discussed.
Yeah, a box that all the boxes went in. So.
Yeah, really. It kind of fell to the same sort of mantra of the whole thing, was just keep it simple. It's just one box. They're all in it. You get up everything with your pledge, and that's it.
Yeah. So we just kept it kind of simple, and then but we did like make sure to have a PDF level, just because, and it's not print and play. It's it'll be like a book, and it'll be the PDF, because I just know that some people don't like physical stuff. Like they don't want to own physical books. They don't, my Ryan, who used to be a Nerdarchy, he's like that. Like he has moved a lot in his life, And he's like, I do not want to move another effing stack of books.
I'm the same way, man. If I could do everything gaming related through my tablet with a set of dice, I'd be more than happy to.
So here's an idea for an item from Parks: a magic beard bomb that grants use of beardomancy cantrip for X hours or X uses of a beardomancy spell or subclass ability, in addition to growing a great beard. We do have, like, on the website at the very least. I know there's actually some Magic Island stuff, but on the website there's a whole article about dwarven beard stuff, right?
That's in beardomancy. You're talking about that one Eli wrote years ago? Yeah, those are all in the original beardomancy.
Yeah, which is really cool. Like beard armor and stuff as well.
Yeah, we
take our bearding very seriously here at Nerdarchy.
There's actually today's video, I think you guys put the links to all those posts on the site. So if you want to explore some of there's Beardomantic Adept, which is like Magic Adept for that. There's several Beardomancy items in the decks. I don't think it's on the page or that we 100% decided, so I don't want to say anything more about that. But there is some items that are related to that.
But if we do reference something on a card, the rules to it will be in the booklet.
Yes, okay, so that's the part of it. Yeah.
For sure. What's up, Winter Sky? Yeah, so that's all in there. I think, like I said, I just put on the list for us to Mage Forge the Mage Forge in a video for me and Ted. I think it's going to be like an artifact or something, on scale with like when we did the Mage Vault. Or was it the
can I like spoil one of the items to answer Parks' question?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so this is a legendary item, mind you, so not going to be easy to obtain. These are robes of exquisite taste. And in addition to several other powers, while you wear the robes, you add all the School of Beardomancy spells to the list of spells you can prepare, or it basically just lets you pick from all those. Actually, it mentions that if you do not prepare spells, you instead add Rapunzel's Curse, which is a very powerful Beardomancy spell, and that you could do it a number of times a day equal to your proficiency bonus. So that's some pretty dope stuff there.
Pretty potent.
Well, it's legendary. It's fun. It's funny when we were really like curating this collection. There was a tremendous number of like very rare and legendary items, and it was weird. I remember talking to Ted. It's like, well, we want to have all these cool things, but it's like, we had to temper it with like, okay, let's bring it down a little bit and like focus on making some like uncommon and even common magic items, which I think common magic, next to like the big ticket items, I like common magic items a lot because they're just fun, right? Like they just often do, or at least our take on them, it's like they just do fun things that might create fun scenarios while you're playing, or interesting scenarios, right?
And
so there's quite a few of those.
I mean, for us, the cool thing is like this is a lot of stuff that's come from our games and the streams we've done. I mean, I've said this other places, but I'll say it here too. It's like some of the magic items Ted went back and recreated from the Scarlet Sisterhood game.
Pigpen is a favorite of mine.
Because like he's like, hey, what about this or what about that? I'm like, dude, I don't know. I ran that game a couple of years ago, and like I probably have no notes. And so instead of waiting for me to find notes, he went and like rewatched them and then recreated the items.
Fun fact: several of our products are follow that same production schedule. I think Hit Dice to Heroics was just videos that you guys made, and I was like, we should write these down. And like I watched every video and was like, okay, this film does this.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes
that's our number one bestseller
video, and it's just us literally like live workshopping the next product.
Well, that's sort of the Nerdarchy way, right? Like I said, back when I was just a fan, that was always my takeaway. It's like I like a lot of different creators, but I never more watched anybody and just wanted to play right then and do that thing than Nerdarchy videos. So I'm very proud to be, a partner now, but also offering this thing, which I think you said it. I don't remember. Maybe it was on that RPG Academy podcast that you said, but like in a lot of ways, this is just sort of like the three of ours love letter to magic items, right? Like it seems sort of ostentatious, like 250 that like just we came up with,
Yeah.
But like you said, it's like they're from our games, and it's just, especially Ted just loves magic items. But and I think we all do in our own way, like to what you were just saying, like Pigpen and Last Breath. It's like those are things that like had a major, not like mechanical impact on your game. They maybe, but just like the players love them because they were for them, right? Like Jen's characters, like Pigpen was, I don't know exactly what it did in the game. I mean, I know what it does now, but
it was a maul that like constantly shed flakes of rust.
Right.
And it basically, so it had the siege weapon property for one, and it just did extra corrosive damage when it hit, or acid damage. And
right, so it's like, and there's not a ton going on. Yeah, right. But like just that fact that's like it fit with the character, and it just was like visually, unique and stuff. Like after it's funny from all the content that we've created over the monsters and magic items, there's not that many different things that things can do. It's just how you put them together and present them. Right.
And so Last Breath started off as just a +1 dagger
mm-hmm.
that when Kenna would whisper Last Breath onto the blade, it would extend to a short sword. Well, it got upgraded severely throughout the game. Because that's so what people are going to find in the Mage Forge Kickstarter when they get that item, they're getting the legendary version.
Yeah.
Of it.
Parks makes an excellent point there. He says, when it comes to magic items, I've had more fun with an immovable rod than a vorpal sword. And yeah, I totally agree. It's like, things that make you a badass in combat, they're fun and stuff, but it's stuff that just does unusual things that I like the most.
Yeah.
And to that end, a lot of the things that we have that even are like weapons and armor, like they probably have some sort of combat bonus, but more often than not, they do something totally unrelated to combat, which is super important to me personally as not only a designer, but just a player, like, because it's just more fun. I mean, that way, for me anyway.
There's a Eberron series. I think it's called Dark Lanterns.
Mm-hmm.
And like what I don't remember the specifics, but like one of the scenes, and it's like very early in the book, and it's like this whole like espionage setup, right? And the person gets kind of made, and he gets into this fight, and like he's using the movable rod in the fight to like trip their opponent, pin them in place, like all
that
this
would be cool, yeah.
All this crazy stuff. Obviously, it would never work in a real D&D game just because of the way the mechanics are, but it was definitely interesting.
I don't know. I'm one of those that it might get kind of noodly and stuff, but there's probably a legit, way to represent that. Well, even only in the fact that like, look, I mean, the jumping rules describe like how far, like if you're this tall, then like your fingers can reach this high when you jump. So it's like there is rules. I mean, you could jump up, click it, like hang from it, whatever.
So yeah, so like there's definitely some cool things to do.
A monk with an immovable rod would be pretty awesome, or two of them. Can you imagine, like, what I mean? Like, because you could swing and like click it, hold it, hang in the air, and like put one down by their feet to trip them, like you were saying. That'd be pretty cool.
It definitely
maybe an artificer monk or something.
So the problem is, I think like using an immovable rod is like an action, right? So like the action economy really screws up with the cool thematics.
Yeah, right.
You need to be like a fighter with action surge so you can do like half
and hasted.
But hey, I mean, you could probably definitely do things like set it up for a trip or pin someone's foot to the floor or something like that. For sure. If I'm
not in a combat situation, but if you had two of them, could you sort of like traverse actually, even if you had one, could you like get across a pit or something by like just clicking it, like swinging, clicking, then clicking it again?
I would say yeah.
Yeah, I would too.
I mean, if a monk's like, I run and jump, click it in the air, and then I swing myself up the stand on it, like, I would give him that,
Or even just, I'm saying, like, almost like Tarzan, just like jump, click to stop it, and then swing, then let go, then put it forward. It's kind of like a salmon bar, a horizontal salmon bar, or even a vertical one. I guess you could
with your one rod, your ninja warrior.
You have to be Stephen Amell to do that from Arrow. You remember, because he was always famous for doing like the salmon ride.
Yeah.
So it can be done physically, and you don't even need a magic item.
Special effects. It's all special effects.
Yeah. The other thing that I hope comes, from this is like, I'm always advocating for more people to run games. So I hope there's at least a couple things. Like, I'll use one of my favorites is the Mantle of the Thorn Vine, and the Thorn Vine itself, which is a cloak and a whip. And like, I think that this is old school Nerdarchy one that I found buried in the files, but it's actually pretty cool. There's a little story that there is like there was like a unknown halfling protector of his, home that was just known as the Thorn Vine, I think, or something like that. And, that he just had like a green cloak that looked like leaves and this whip. And if you have them both, they actually like enhance each other. Sort of like makes you, and there's quite a few items, I don't want to say quite a few, but there's several pairs of items that interact in different ways like that. And again, to that end, it's like, I would love it if like a player saw that and was like, I want to make that an adventure. Like maybe they have them, help the Thorn Vine or whatever the character's name is.
I believe those items first appeared in Croak Hollow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, was the sort of vigilante character in that?
I don't know that the NPC was, but I believe the items were.
The Nerdarchy verse is deep and noodly, man. There's a lot going on.
And right from the beginning, like there's a frog. There's a frog adventure.
Yep.
Right at the sword. That was one of the first ones we did, I think.
Yeah. I think I always used to speculate that you guys were just sitting around like, look, we all got to make our own adventure. And it's like, you did Maze of Mandoon, Ryan did Croak Hollow, Nate did Crinch.
No, that was Ryan too. Ryan actually did both of those.
Oh, did he? So maybe you and Ryan were both banging those up. But yeah, he did. Maze of Mandoon was your creation, I believe. Right?
Maze of Mandoon.
Yeah, all the stuff from Croak Hollow's in here.
There's Winter Day. That's what it is. Father's Winter Day.
Yes. Yeah. There's a couple items from Croak Hollow in the Mage Forge.
Man, it's been a long, strange ride.
Let's see. Yeah, let me see if you remember this. Frog Sticker, which is a trident, I believe, is from Croak Hollow. And the Ring of the Ghost Orchid is also from Croak Hollow. So maybe that Thorn Vine isn't from there, because I would.
Oh, maybe not. Like I said, well, I mean, we made a lot of stuff, so.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of our jam, right? We make a lot of stuff.
I can tell you the last two items that we Mage forged are definitely in there.
Oh, yeah? What were they?
The Croak Cloak.
Okay.
Another frog thing, of course.
Yep.
We promise it isn't all frog items. Only half.
Hey, dude, if you and Ted were on board, I would 100% go all in on a frog.
The 100%. Like, we're working with Nord, and they're like, what is the theme of your decks? Frog. You got some frogs? No, it's all frogs.
Hey, you know what? Maybe that would be our claim to fame. I would have to cut Ted's daughter a check for that. Because a lot of it is.
And also the Glaive of Wizardry was one of the other.
Oh, yeah. That's a super powerful one. That was from Ted's the untraditionally arcane group, but I forget what they called themselves before. Is
someone fight with that in there?
The hobgoblin wizard warlord had it, and they beat him. It was a very hard fight. And it's a super powerful.
I think the item itself predates that game now.
I think he used the video to have you help him make that for his game, if I recall correctly. Because it was like coming out soon. So
yeah. I knew he wanted to make a weapon, and he wanted to still like be wizardy, so he wanted to like kind of be like a staff.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's funny. You mentioned Last Breath and that and stuff, and somebody had asked us again. I was thinking it was on that podcast. Which you guys should all go check out. RPG Academy. It's really cool, fun time. And somebody said, "Oh, do you have like all your, the notes on it, on how to upgrade those things?" And we don't. And I think that was somewhat of a conscious decision too, because of what we've been talking about. Where it's like, well, those are things that's like that's how it happened in your game.
Yeah.
And it's like because the characters and the players invested things in them. They thought they were important. So it's like I totally encourage people to do that, but I think we didn't want to like sort of paint other GMs and players into a corner. Like this is the way to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, so many of the magic items in my games happen in the game, right? Like Bloodfang from our first campaign. When they went back to the Dragon Realm, they knighted him, and the Dragon Emperor took his greatsword and like shoved it into this like trough of coals, and then breathed fire on it and made it into a flame sword.
Yeah.
But later on, they went and did a favor for another being that was frost related, which gave them each like a gem that they could do something with. And depending on what they did with it, would kind of like give them some kind of boon or perk or whatever. And like so he put it into his greatsword, into the pommel of his greatsword. So it became like a greatsword of frost and flame.
Oh, that's awesome.
Somebody else like embedded it in them themselves and turned it into like a snowflake tattoo.
Yeah, and that's the kind of like fun, awesome stuff that happens in games that like I don't think we wanted to like make it seem like that was the way to do it. I'd rather, for me, it was more important. And, it's kind of funny on a more broad scale. I often see this as like a dividing line amongst 5e players. Like, a lot of the official books and stuff, people, it's too vague, or like, it doesn't walk you through all this stuff. I like that because I don't want somebody else to like put a frame around my ideas, right? Where it's just like, hey, maybe you'll see the Drew Call, sword, and that'll just give you an idea like, oh, I can fit that in my campaign because like there is like it just mentions one little thing about like the Dragon Emperors or whatever, right? There's no lore about like who they are, and here's a list of all of them and what they do and how blah blah blah. It's like that. My favorite content for any game is just stuff where it's like just got a little snippet that takes me like inspires my imagination. So I hope that comes through for this one.
I'm also kind of like stingy with the magic items I give in my games. But when I give them, they're like really good. So like,
yeah, I don't think stingy is the right word. You're just like you said. I mean, you often, it's like we'll build on one item, right? Like
one item where I'll give boons.
Yeah. Right.
Like,
but like that Last Breath, or even that Frost and Flame sword, it's just like, sure, I mean, yes, you could have broken that up. It's like he's got a flame sword and a frost sword. It's like, but I don't need two swords, so I'd rather just have them in one.
Yeah, we only have one magic item, but it did like 6d6 damage.
Well, that's what I mean. Essentially, it is like multiple magic items that you just like through the story.
Yeah,
they're all in one thing, which is cool too, because then it's like then you kind of as a player, like by the end of it, that could be like a legendary item in your world, right? Even if that player doesn't play anymore, it's like there's that sword, and like now everybody in your group knows the story of that legendary sword and like how it came to be.
Like That group, I gave a lot of like weird rewards for that group. Like that character also ended up getting like a second background. He got the background feature kind of.
Yeah.
When he got knighted, so I was like, oh, so I just pulled the stuff from the knight background, and then like, okay, here's a mount and some retainers to tend to it.
Mm-hmm. So in the back of my mind, this whole chat, ever since we had that question, I've just been thinking like, what would a Mage Forge artifact location item be like? I don't really have any concrete ideas, but I've just been wondering the whole time. Do you have anything like? I kind of like vaguely. I want to say it's like I want to imagine it would be a place that you might return to time and again, maybe for that very thing, like. To, it could be a quest sort of hub, right? Like, I want to upgrade this item. What do I need to do? And you can go find those things and bring them back to the Mage Forge and it's like, oh, now I can like combine them, like you just said with that gem or whatever. It's like, well, that's where you need to go to do that sort of thing. And of course, being D&D, I'm sure that person might be a quest giver, like our dwarven mage, or if it's a sentient thing in and of itself, it might require, being rekindled, right? Like it's a dormant thing. If it's like an ancient artifact deep in the ground or something, maybe it's just cold, nobody's there, or the magical fire's gone out. And again, that's like, I love coming up with all these sorts of ideas because those are all adventures, right? Like,
maybe it's like Thor in Infinity War when they forged.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That which is such a cool scene, right? Totally awesome. With like opening that thing and getting like the starlight to relight the forge.
It's a whole quest just to light the forge. Maybe it can only be lit like once a year, once 100 years or something.
Yeah. See, now I'm already, my mind's whirling. It's like that's incorporating so many cool ideas, like a time element. It's a small window.
Yeah.
So and of course, I might like I always like to sort of like plan for like how can you hit people in the fields, right? So it's like maybe. There's something that an NPC that the party, there's an item that they could like save an NPC's life or something. And it's like, well, do you want to use your small window to do that or to make your sword better? Yeah. You know what I mean? So that kind of stuff is really fun to me. Now I'm like 100% like we're definitely got to make them encounter like something else. This is pretty cool ideas we're coming up with here. Would it make mages impart the ability? Man, off the top of my head, Parks, I would definitely think about like investing spell slots into it, and probably, again, this is just we're just spitballing here. I would probably incorporate some kind of scenario where like you could use it to forge items, and if and it does require investing spell slots and they don't come back the next day, it would be like a week from then or something, right? Because it's like that's pretty easy if it's just like, oh, I'll just take a nap and boop, I'm good, I just made an artifact or whatever. So yeah, I would totally think about something like that, or some sort of investment that the character doesn't get back right away. And you hit dice, right? And you got to like
represent sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could also, it could just be a great drop-in location to like, maybe even like I said earlier, combine items that you have, change them. Maybe even like break them down Skyrim style where you like learn the enchantment and you can like put it on something else, right?
Like create Residium from 4th edition?
Yeah, basically something like that, right? Could be all sorts of things.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely things.
Just getting there would be an adventure.
I'm also
or maybe not.
Probably make a cool like out of the box style encounter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it like all of those, it's pretty much a contained location.
Yeah.
And, there'd be something would happen the first time you're there, and then it can just be, static location, or maybe it disappears and vanishes and it only shows up. One of my games, I had actually, it was that same long-running campaign. There was a moon forge that could only be lit like when the moon shone through like this crack in the in the mountain, and just stuff like that. Where it's like, well, I mean, there's all sorts of things you can incorporate to make things like memorable, but also not abusable, right? It was just like, hey, we can go here every day and just crank out the Residium.
Could be completely plot dependent, right?
Yes.
Like only when the need is great enough can you stoke the flame.
Yeah. Yes. Right. Yeah. I've certainly done stuff like that. It's like,
something ambiguous.
Yeah. Don't paint. That's a little DM tip. Don't paint yourself into a corner.
Like take some inspiration from like the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon.
Yeah.
Where they're
or Transformers movie when you're at your darkest hour. It's like,
yeah,
I don't know when that is. That's for me to decide.
That's
that's your darkest hour yet. That matrix will not open. Sorry, Ultra Magnus.
Well, magic. Artifacts. They're meant to be, they're plot devices.
Mm-hmm.
They're not meant to be treated like your typical +1 sword.
Right.
Like the whole campaign should shape around that.
Yeah, and that doesn't just mean high level play too. I mean, we have quite a few videos where I am 100% on board with just lean into those campaign breaking items, like deck of many things or whatever. It's like just give it to them right off the bat, or incorporate. Maybe they can draw a card to start, and that video sticks out to me because I remember it being really fun. Just being a lot of cool ideas in there.
Yeah.
And I mean, for what it's worth, I just think games, D&D and RPGs, they're just so subjective where it's like, it's only going to break your campaign if you let it, right?
Yeah, I feel like I've definitely broken a few campaigns over the years.
I mean, what does that actually mean to you? That I'm kind of curious because, like I said, I sort of lurk about kind of D&D conversations a lot of the day, and so I see a lot of.
I guess it's when you get to the point where you just can't challenge your players anymore, just because you just loaded them up with so much stuff. They have the answer to everything. It's harder in 5e than previous editions because
because they're so powerful anyway.
Well, no, because of attunement. Like in previous editions, you could have all the magic items and just pile them on.
Well, there's a lot of interesting things there too. I mean, I don't think there's any hard and fast rules, but attunement is usually on things that have, I don't want to put it, it's sort of the same broad strokes as warlock invocations, right? Where it's if you're going to affect something externally,
yeah, then
it requires attunement, or it's the invocations where it's you have to use your spell slot. If it's just something for you personally, often those do not require attunement because it's you're not. I mean, it's just a utility type thing, right? But it's if someone can cast fireball, then hell yeah, it's going to require attunement because it's then you can just pass it on down the line or whatever. So there's that to consider.
So you never when you never experienced the Monty Hall campaign?
Oh, I am a Monty Hall DM. Maybe that's why I don't care because it's I'm just used to that. People probably we're gonna. I don't know. This is revealing too much. Because I improv and all that stuff. I'm always my main priority when I'm a GM is just trying to read the table, and so it's easy to sort of just increase or decrease. I mean, I guess when it comes right down to it, we're talking about combat, right? Because it's that's the only time your life's really in danger. And it's just I've never had any complaints yet. I know people would, this would be anathema to people. Well, I want to know the encounter was I beat the encounter that you prepared. You overcame me, Doug Verhoeven, personally because you were better than. Your character was better than what I laid out. But that's just not why I play games, and people I have played with, been blessed to play with over the years don't seem to mind either. It's just more about what's exciting and what's fun, and and evocative, right? And to that end, I'm certainly not a pushover DM. I probably lean more the other way, where it's like, oh shit, I better pull back because like 3 of these people just went down. You know?
Oops. I mean, I did think you were trying to kill us with giants in the quest game. And Steven...
that's a great example. It's Steven like I was trying to convey, like, these things are not things that you're going to run up and try to attack. But it was like, well, if they do, I feel like I telegraphed that pretty well, saying, like, no, they're like 100 feet tall. And, you know, they're just lumbering around the countryside, like forces of nature.
Steven was pumping Ted up to go fight them. That's before we suggested the mech.
I know, that's exactly why I just leaned into that idea, because I was like, well, I've tried to present them as being, you know, not something you want to fight, but if they want to go, I mean, you know, like I did have stats for them and they did like 40 points of damage and stuff. So it's like they would have just flattened you. So
I knew they were ridiculous, like you had mentioned, and kind of like because we did like the homework, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So this is what it would be like fighting them mechanically.
Mm-hmm.
And me and Ted are like, oh, we shouldn't fight those. And Steven is like, this is your chance to shine. Whatever Ted's character's name was.
Orlu.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a great example too, where it's like, you know, I mean, you got basically every session you get, I think, well, I put a magic item in every session, you know, always find them. Like when I ran D&D in the castle, I was passing out magic items like candy. You know, like by the end, remember the suit.
Those people spent like $5,000 a piece. That's okay.
Well, especially, you know, who really loved it was Sue. I remember the mother that was there with her son. She had never played before, and she had like that balance of life and death, which is a super powerful sickle. I think it's legendary. She had like an Aurora cloak, which again, all these are in the Mage Force, again, super powerful. And she like that woman was sort of like one of my touchstones for reading the table the whole time. Because I was like, okay, well, everybody, you know, like they're mechanically sound and they're invested in that. This lady doesn't know how to play or anything. And so I was like, if she's having a blast, and everybody was totally on board with like helping her and everything, I was like, I'm doing good. So, and you guys have mentioned many times, by the time we had our joint session, you would never thought this lady never played D&D. She had her, you know, she knew the Action Academy. She knew what she was going to do, how her spells work.
She's a spellcaster, right?
The bard, yeah. A lore bard, so a lot of going on. And on top of that, they went from like 1st to 16th level in like 4 sessions or something. So she had a lot to absorb. And she did great. She had tons of magic items. They all did. There was an artifact that Ted had designed that I put behind a super, really hard to find place. They found that. Yeah. In fact, that was one of my favorite things. They were just about to leave the chamber where there was like a big secret door and all that stuff. And then one player was just like, I want to take another look around that room. And they had like done stuff in the room, and you know, I don't remember exactly what, but like they were there for a while. And just for whatever reason, he had that tickling in his brain, and then they found this, you know, like managed to get through and like do this puzzle and all this stuff to get it. So certainly well worth the reward. And even in Quest, I mean, Excalibur, you know, that was Ted's sort of personal side quest. It wasn't easy to get. I mean, he had to track it all over the galaxy and even
giants.
Yeah. Yep. And then, like all great artifacts, he was given a task of ensuring that it was passed on to someone else, which I totally stole out of the Excalibur movie.
Of course.
That was like my notes for that session. That was in big bold. I was like, I have to say this. In the end of that movie is like, you know, remember he tells Percival, like, find a pool of still water and throw the sword in. I had him say, find a pool of soapy water and throw the skillet in.
Which you never want to do with a skillet. You clean it
I know. I actually, if you go back and watch that episode, I added in the description, there is a warning to not wash your cast iron skillet with soap, and there's a link to 10 good ways to wash it. So if you're really interested in how to clean an iron skillet, go find that Quest episode.
See, we're educational too.
Yeah, that's right. Let's see. Parks has a question. Or actually, there's quite a few. Let's see. We answered that. I had an idea for separating a deck of many things and give quests out to find and use a particular. That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's just called like, I don't remember what the video is called, but if you go on the channel, the main channel, look for deck of many things. These Dave and Ted just brainstormed quite a few ideas for running a deck of many things campaign. There's probably a post on the website related to that.
Yeah, I don't remember what that was. Like, I think that was.
You guys had a bunch of different ideas.
Like
it
a
was
hooked on adventure idea, maybe.
Yeah. But I mean, that's like you guys like just sort of. It was a discussion video, so there's like 5 different cool ideas of how to.
Listen, we've forgotten more videos we've made than most other YouTube channels have made. So
yeah. Let's see. Here's a legit question towards the end of the chat. Do you give a player an item or boon or whatever as a birthday present or Christmas gift? Like I said, I give out stuff so much that I don't like every day, every session is Christmas or birthday. When
I have not. Ted has definitely done that in his games.
Yeah, he's super good about like theming things around holidays or just stuff like that. He's very cognizant of that.
Yeah, I'm not. Not at all. Sometimes, I mean, actually, I say I never run homebrew stuff, but one of the few like adventures I did run, sort of heavily modified, was
how Orcus stole Christmas.
Orcus Claws.
Yeah.
But like that being said, it's for like 3rd or 4th level characters, and I ran it for like 17th level characters.
That's a frog god, isn't it?
It is a frog god, yeah.
The other thing also related to that, I don't know if this is TMI, but it's like, look, I don't have kids or nephews or anything, so it's like holidays and birthdays just are not. I don't even remember my own birthday half the day. It's like, and if it wasn't with Tara and her daughter and all that stuff, Christmas
we get, right?
Yeah, and if it wasn't for Tara and her daughter and everything, Christmas would be the same way. It's like just another day, man.
Yeah.
It's not even a day off work. Because we just work every 24/7 around here.
Just nerding all the things all the time.
So I see that at least one person has gotten back. I don't know if it's any of these fine people from today's chat, but if it is, thank you all so much.
Well, I think it's gone up by 2 since we started the chat.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we're getting there.
So it's cool. We'll probably fun tomorrow-ish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm super excited. I thank you to the chat for proposing that thing about the actual Mage Forge. I think that's a really exciting idea that you might just find in your box or in the PDF or somehow. Maybe we'll just make it and give it away for free like we did Seizing the Means as like a teaser. I don't know. No promises.
No promises. It could happen though. Could happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm almost picturing an out of the box style encounter to go.
Absolutely. Yes. I am so like, as tumultuous as these last couple of years have been, like that's one of the several things that have really just felt like they gelled for us, and like just really embracing that style of like adventure material. I still call them modules because it's like that, like we were saying with Andy, that's what I would like to run a game. Right, like any of those encounters, I can and have squeezed 2-3 hours out of just one of them. Like that is the adventure.
I mean, one of the few resources I've gone to has been Prepared from Kobold Press. Which
like that's similar sort of thing. Or like it's not an adventure. It's just like here's a location. There's some shit going on, so you could probably hook it into your existing campaign pretty easily, right?
Yeah, that stuff is great when it's like. Maybe it's a filler session where you're not going to get a lot of plot done or the main story or whatever, but you were short for time that week and you just need some things to happen.
Well, I would say also too that like the way we've sort of developed how we do those encounters, like it is designed to like guide the DM into giving the players agency, right? And that is what makes the length of them go up. It's like, look, if you just showed up and it's like, yeah, there's this creature, okay, we'll kill it. And it's like, yeah, sure, it's going to take like 5 minutes. but it's like they're not combat encounters. It's like it's just a scenario, and there's a lot of not all the same exact format, but there's like a lot of thought goes into like maybe players got this, tool proficiency. So there's like if there's a tapestry, it's like, hey, if somebody's got weaver's tools, like maybe ask them like, or focus on that character. And it's like, oh, you notice this, or if you make a check or whatever. A lot of stuff about tools and just a lot of things that, again, when I'm the DM, like in a lot of official things, I don't know why the players are there either or whatever. So I just, we try to put a lot of thought into that.
Yeah, there's little details that make everything kind of come together. But
agency is your friend. Let the players do the heavy lifting.
That's right. We are just past the 9 o'clock hour, but we'll be back tomorrow night with a brand new series.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody's Heroes. We'll be playing tomorrow night, which is going to be a blast. It's not D&D, but we're going to be playing a superheroes game using the Cypher system. We got a new friend in the group.
Yeah, super awesome.
It's going to be a blast. You can actually find the trailer on this channel.
Mm-hmm. And then who's your guest tomorrow? Do you know?
The guest tomorrow.
No biggie. I didn't mean
dueling doll over on TikTok, and they're like a fight cartographer as well.
Cool. So we'll probably see some of the names from chat are frequent daytime live chat guests.
I can't line Ted up with another death match.
Oh yeah, there you go.
It's a pastime of mine. But anyway, until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.